Hi everyone. Kumusta na mo? It's been a while now since we recorded again.
Was it September though?
September.
First
So
pilot
yeah, it's
episode.
been about 2 months since we uploaded our pilot episode.
Yes, and here we are once more to talk about
Yes.
reading, our love for reading, and everything about books.
Episode 2. Alj, how are you? I'm very good. I'm very thankful for the weather today. It's unexpectedly very beautiful.
The sunset is so it's cooperating.
Yeah. To think that
Then tell them where we are.
we are
Our
at Coffee
location.
Project. We are at Coffee Project in Grand Europa. Their second branch in CDO.
Yes, yes, yes. So ako, I feel fantastic. Fantastic. Kala nga daw, but really thought nga, especially pag naka sa sales na ako na, people ask you daw, how are you? Like, really lang daw, like, okay, or fantastic. Because that word could really like influence your mood or your entire day. So fantastic. Sige.
And you, Ante, how are you?
How would I like encapsulate? I would just say it's great
Love it.
because I've been like productive, not really literary, but I'm productive in other ways. Just this morning I was
Okay, saya.
attending, yes.
English.
Yeah. Kabasi mo tingnan sila kung English lang sila.
Hindi business ba yun yun tato ang purpose?
Yes, yes.
English, but something na carried away sa mga
Like
express it best sa English. And
Yes. So just this morning, nag-attend ko ko kaning webinar no sa qualitative research. No? Ganahan kay ko kay medyo na-insert po
Productive good ka. in fairness.
Sa nine sa iyang study.
and na-insert po dito na quality na ko konti pero kanang na-insert mo gud dito ang kanabitang literary as well,
Wow.
like part of the kanang kwan ba qualitative studies apil ba yun na siya.
So na aspect na literary.
Even
Yes.
if it's siya, you still have to delve into the quality to explain.
Yes.
What is the quantity for?
Yes, kay gi-emphasize nito ganina na stories are important. So anyway,
Actually, I can attest to that, and kay kanang di ba, one of your students before at USTP is my friend now. Kaya nailan ako siya sa hiking. Unya
So,
kay
world.
Small World. Unya, connected po sila ni Arvin sa Facebook. So, magkita ni kato ni student kay mo si Jano. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mads.
Hello.
hi Jano.
Kuan, makita niya ang kanang pictures tulungan nagbanta. He knows nga kanang murag ang ato ang circle kay interested in the literary.
So, dapat mag-behave na data, no? Kaya na yung makakailan sa ato.
Di ba sunod sa una?
So, we have to consider it. So,
Unya, unya, mo to nga kanang sana siya kanang ma-inspire siya ba?
Uy, that's so good. Like when I hear stories, like, you know, like katulad di ba, Arbs, you were sharing one time na na-inspire sa ato ang reading the podcast na to.
Yes.
Reading, and then I mentioned start na siya read. Ako personally, I would get messages from friends, grade school friends nga, you know what,
After our first episode.
yeah, after that podcast, sila, you know what, gabay na kong books karon go order na
Wow.
online, and then my kids, I really make sure nga sige ko. I really make sure nga nasan sila yung storybooks, and then medyo na niya, manage ang time between gadget and books, and hearing those kana itong gina-share, murag all the more ka ba nga maganahan na
Mag-continue.
Siyempre, mag-cafe-cafe na kita as a break. Pero nice nga, we also use our time to meet up and do cafe lounging.
Yeah.
Something makapaano po, makashare tag insight and makashare about our journeys.
Yeah.
Murag dual purpose.
Yes, because
Different type purpose.
our purpose man yun for doing this podcast in the first place is to parang ignite something ba sa atong mga viewers to appreciate and start reading.
Yeah. Okay, all the more, di ba? With the gadgets, with the
Yeah.
diversions, with travel and everything. So, lisod naman good ma-uphold yun ang habit or
Exactly.
the enjoyment of reading.
And that's actually one of the points that we will be discussing karon kay
That's straight. That's
kwan magud no
not a
atong
deep dive.
yes, kaya atong magong topic karon is challenges encountered when reading a book basically, or just the reading habit maka-encounter magitag say maglisod tag hurot o buman sa libro.
Sige, before we go to the challenges,
Aha.
pwede ba nga mag-recall ta for a bit
Aha.
as to how we close our first episode?
Mhm.
Tapos mo segue dahil ta. If you recall, what was that? The last na part nato sa ato ang if I remember correctly, we were all asked to share a reading quote and then to share our favorite book or what is a good first book to start. I think we did that, right? Now, even with that, even with kita tanan ganahan na kita read without a doubt, pero we also have to be cognizant of the challenges of people in general. Why is it that they can't even bring themselves to start a book, much less, or so much more finish a book? So those are some of the things that we will be talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
karon. Okay, sige.
Mhm.
Isa may musugot.
Sige.
Some of the biggest challenges. Why do we never finish reading a book in the first place?
Yeah.
I think kay murag habit gid siya, no? Because reading is a practice, it's a habit. So kung beginner ka, dili ka anad mag-read, especially og long works, medyo anong stamina ka po yun, beagid ka. Makatangkon ka. And one of my BFFs, anak siya sa ako ang kanang lain bang kaayo kay ganahan ko akong mag-read. Pero kanang first page pa lang natulgo naman ko. Ana siya.
Very valid. Yeah, in fact, kinahin ko na ko siya nga sleeping pills.
Yeah, I also relate to that.
Diba? Na yung word ana kada inclusive sleep, soporific.
Aha.
Na siya yung ana nga effect, soporific effect. So ako, because kani man gumagtanaw kag Netflix, di ba naging siya tendency yung about movie at one episode ka and then ma-disrupt na ganyan mo sleep.
Mhm.
So problema ginana ko katong to Netflix save pa ko late at night. So ngayon, with the new renewed, dili man siya new, but renewed mas disciplined na reading habit, mas naka-improve na noon ako sleep quality because if you look at it, hindi siya negative. It's actually a positive effect of reading. Kung makatulog ka or maka-induce siyang sleep, is life. Di ba? Now, kanang anak ko kanang medyo segue lang a question. If we don't finish a book, does that automatically say na we're not readers or we're not disciplined? Or is the act of taking up a book and trying to read already somehow entitles you to the label nga reader ka or you're into books? Hindi lang gid ka kahuman because let's face it, busy man ta. Kinahanglan ba gid ma-finish a book? Okay.
Ako, hindi ko mo deny, there were books that I couldn't finish. Midway,
Nasugdan mo.
nasugdan ako siya.
Or you lost interest.
Yeah, I
halfway
lost
through.
interest. Kaya of course, we have different preferences minsan yun, no, sa libro. Tapos ka na bitang tipo nga, naay book nga, dili na ako mabuyan, nga hantod pa human ako siya, but naapoy books nga nung dragging nga siya in the middle. Dili man pasabot nga, dili maayo ang author, ang writer. Pero siguro sa ako alam, murag, it's already a drag sa ako na part.
Kaya lang siguro siya nikakong sa imong interest.
Yes,
In terms of
probably.
writing style.
Oo, then kanami itong tipo nga, kabalik-balik ko na siya, nako siya basa, nga no, dili ko gakap, di ko
Wala
pa
tayong-
forward.
Laki
Yeah, no?
absorb pa na.
That brings us to the next kind of part of the discussion. Diba? Reader factor versus book factor. So when you don't finish a book, does it mean that there's a problem with the reader, with the discipline? Or does it mean that the book leaves much to be desired?
Sa man ni siya, considering all other aspects pa or factors pa ni nga.
And iba challenges man
Unable
siya.
to
That
read.
just in reading a book. So do you ascribe or do you subscribe to the idea na kung hindi mo na mahuman,
Problema ni mo.
a reader factor. Pero, but then again, on the other hand, nagin po yung book factor. Okay, what if iligid chat ang iyang language or ang pagka
Yes,
isip
ang
or,
pagkahanay.
or ikaw ka expert ka anak na subject and then na nagsulat about it. So, hindi mo siya mahuman-human kaya you're not convinced.
But there are also books I've encountered like kanina bitong, you're expecting so much because this is what the book is selling. What bitong,
Sana kayong blurb.
sada kayo ang blurb.
And then
Ano
the
yun?
author is so hype.
Yes.
Just talking about
Sabi ito yung anak ka na ayaw ka pagka-market sa ila.
Oo, hype kayo din. In the middle of it, ma-confuse ka, where is this leading to? Na pa.
We're just
Then,
talking about that book last
Then,
night.
for example, lugar ang pagka-advertise kay novel siya. Yung na, you're expecting that there's a continuity from one chapter to another. Then matingala ka,
Maybe,
lahi siya.
maybe, what if the author is debunking the traditional form of the novel and trying to be all
But you know what?
post-modernist and post-structuralist about it?
Well, probably.
Napoy na
They can always, defend.
napoy na nga style kay parang siguro kay for example ang Da Vinci Code no by Dan Brown ina naman ang iyang style kay mura siya two plot nga plot.
Not driven.
Oo, murag gasunod ang reader gasunod og duha ka plots no ang
Parallel plot.
Yeah, I understand the kanang lahi sila nga plots, but there's a continuity.
so ang nahit
Ang iyang point kay katong gaambak-ambak.
Ambak-ambak ba nga marami ito makapangutan ka, where is this leading to? Kay murag lahi na pud siya nga
like a timeline.
wala siya di connect bitaw, tapos at the end of it kay dayon. So dayon.
So maybe,
Sana mag-bookmark para maiwasan. Charot.
Dili na sa voice.
so siguro ana na lang. If ikaw, kabalo kasi mo self na you really are into the habit of reading. Pabalo ka nga, naging kay commitment to something that you read, tapos di mo siya mahuman-human. Better nga, imo na lang siya undangan. Then you pick up something na is more interesting or useful.
And I think that we cannot just simply say that it's kind of itong it's a book factor or a reader factor because it kanang maglalay man gyud tao ganang
Correct.
situations. For example, kapoy kay kasawer, then you really want to read, pero kapoy kay at the end of the day,
Like,
hindi ka kahuman siya because you
Because
just
ang book pero di lang gid nimo gakakuman just because it's exhausting from a hard day's work.
yeah,
Hindi ka ba passive activity ang reading?
Correct.
exactly. Reading would actually require a lot from you. No, because
Demanding
you
bitaw ang
don't, you
reading.
just don't read nga mo na pag nag-skim through sa pages.
Correct.
No? You have to understand, you have to visualize, and then connect one concept
Because
to another.
you will not appreciate reading kung skim lang. Pretend na ba ang skim mo eh.
So,
Okay. Exactly.
Diri pa lang sa to ang part sa tong podcast. Aminado na gyud kay ta. But there are really inherent challenges to reading.
Definitely.
Founded by a generation or a community that doesn't really promote reading,
Uh-huh.
and libraries that don't really carry a lot of good titles from local authors good, and also with the competing kanang attractions of other media, then their books are conclusion na lisod yun at least.
Yeah.
That's why if kana magong pag-recognize lang nato sa challenges. We're just aware of that. We are just aware of the challenges. Then, ato nang ma-check natin self daan. Okay, galisod kong humanaan eh. Maybe it's not just me. Maybe it's also the environment around me.
Yes.
So, kana pa lang daan, the acceptance, kanay challenges. I think that could also bring us closer to the goal of being better readers.
Yeah.
Better consumers of the text.
And we also have to recognize as well that all of us has different levels of understanding. We also have different levels of vocabulary. Ma-realize na itong, this book, the language is not accessible to me. Perhaps I'm not the audience
For
for this.
example,
For ex-
Wow,
there's
the
one.
fireworks for guys. Why are there fireworks?
Because we were like siguro
Okay.
doing that. But
You're not paying attention. I was shocked.
yeah. There's this particular book. I won't mention the book because
Ayan na.
the author is well known. The theme of the book is really on national figures, mga 9 national figures nga gi-allude ato nga book. But then kailangan gid siya bongga kaayo og
So,
language facility from you.
so the word is there's a disconnect. For
Yes,
a
yes.
na different for writers who are reading advocates. Because when you have that sensibility, nga, okay, aside from me producing a book, I also want to be able to promote a reading public or promote the habit of reading sa public.
correct.
Then you become more conscious, okay, is my language accessible to these group of people, or especially to the youth? Or am I just, I'm pandering to the high and mighty with all these high and mighty concepts
yes.
na kami-kami ra pud ang nakasabot? Puro sa pud ani-ani nga mga concept. Well and good may ng mga isms, no? All those big concepts. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to find a way to simplify those very big and superior concepts para
Yes.
speed here for nag-study ta sa mga isms.
Exactly.
Right? Tapos dili masabtan sa
Kaya
ato
kana bitong, if you are writing the book so that you can advocate for the truth of what happened with our, for example, to our country and with this particular figure, ingon ana, tapos kana bitong mukalit lang dayon og ang lingwahe kay dili day siya ma-access dito sa imong giadvokasihan. So sa kay purpose.
So if the advocacy is patriotism, nationalism,
Yeah.
history, appreciation for history,
Oo.
pero katong mga
And this is where research comes in as a writer. Hey, who are my audience? Ano ba?
I think nasobrahan siguro na sa research.
Ano, okay na sa
Okay na sa
Pero
research.
to clarify, for those who are watching, dili familiar kung unsa ang kaning language nga ato ang ginaistoryahan kay basig ilang pagsabot sa language kay
Language verbal.
English or Filipino, inana.
Ah,
Oo. So, what is language in literature?
It's the way the text is written. And every time when you say accessible nga language or accessible way of writing, dali siya ma-digest or masabtan.
Word choice, diction.
Hindi lang po siya, I guess, language, but more on the entirety,
Mhm.
the character that you chose, the milieu, the setting, the conflict, kanatanan. Is it relevant? Is it connected? Or dali ba makakonect ang readers na gusto natin?
mhm.
Now, even if ka nang maka-identify ka, okay, we want the Filipinos to read this, na pinay edad na mabasa.
Mm.
Di ba? Kaya pwede man yan natin children's stories, pero ang format po, dili kay accessible to children, dili kayo attractive. Isubsad na siya. I think natakol na siya sa, I think sa first na to, sa pilot episode na. Now, I heard, kani manggod siya na question, was because of one statement sa someone I know,
Mhm.
na according to that person, hindi daw kano kay siya into reading. Because why man daw mag-read nga if we want to be educated about certain topics, na naman daw TED Talks, and na naman daw documentaries.
So visual siya.
So sige, can you comment on that? Like
Concept-
there's still a need to pick
To
up
read.
a book. If there's a documentary version of it,
Para na ko, no, kay the
Correct.
book holds so much that
You-
documentaries cannot really, discuss.
Encapsulate.
feel like time limit sa documentary 2 hours at most, right? Or 1 hour.
Depende ka na may documentaries nga, docu-series nga, take 1 hour
Mhm.
per episode. Ana.
Mhm.
Na gina-stretch na nila.
Napayuban
Siguro,
nga,
napasabot.
napayuban documentary nga, murag film lang nga 2 hours or 1 hour 30.
Mhm.
Pero, regardless of the length, like yapon siya ng media.
Pero
Halimbawa,
na unique advantages ka po ng documentary, syempre, di
course,
ba?
oo.
Kaya murag, I think it's more communal. You can watch it with your family.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
So what's common ba about a documentary and a book? So siguro
The narration.
akong mating number one is pareho man po sila well researched.
Documentary
Yes.
itself, more very, very
Pareho man po sila well produced. Kay pinag-isipan man gid na unya lagi po yung mga research team behind the documentary. Ang book most of the time one author lang. So siya lang gyud sa thing.
Ano pang ani ka na? Kaya as reading advocates, how do we sell the book
Mm.
if there is the vis-a-vis the documentary?
Mm-mm. So siguro ang murag selling point lang about documentaries as a medium is kuan siya shorter siya kay syempre kanang tanong naman nimo shorter man ang length of
Mhm.
time di ba ang
Diretso ni mo
book,
siya maano.
ang book sometimes murag maski gani ako until now makurat ko nga lana din mga tao ba nga maka-read og kanang book in one sitting lang.
Mhm.
Kaya ako slow reader man gid ko. So, kung documentary versus reading a book, convenient
Mas
in terms of
mas
time.
matrabaho ang reading.
Mas matrabaho ang reading. Kunya, what's good about documentaries is kanabit ang ay mga footage ba from the archive of mga World War I museum, mga whatever.
Your interest,
Oo, yan ba?
your-
Oo.
transport you visually, especially auditory and visual.
Mhm.
How would you sell reading?
Okay, number one, a book may hold, kato kung gingon ka ganina, a book may hold a lot of information
Nadili
that
na.
may be, wala na siya na-appeal sa production.
Yes, because
Sa-
naapoy time
Yes,
constraints.
nighttime constraints, production-wise,
Mm.
budget,
Budget.
yun na. Tapos, if you're a producer of a film or a documentary, iselect na naman yun mo na siya, no?
Mm.
Kaya kada itong, these are the highlights, kani dili na kayo necessary, nga ibutang pa nila to siya dito. Kaya siguro understood na whatever ana-ana. Pero you can find those in books. Another thing is that not all subject matters can be discussed by documentaries. There are a lot of great things you can learn from a book that you cannot find in documentary format.
Lagi mga documentaries po nga wala pa sila pakita og book version. For example, kanang sa Netflix bitaw ka Live
Aha.
to 100, kanang The Blue Zone.
Mm.
Manan kay ko anak, I'm really an advocate of longevity mo po. So kana wala pa ko kakitaan na although maybe wala ko kakita, kaya wala po ko nakita.
Mhm.
No? So kana tinuod din na ouch, I agree na ana ka it's easily digestible what do you call that, the documentary na grabe gini man kaon mo sab-sab diyan.
And the great thing about kanabitang digestible kay feeling na ka necessary nga mo. Kay actually I watch a lot of documentary pero ang documentary na ko na yung mga crimes, investigation, blah blah blah. Yun na. The good thing about it is I can just walk and do whatever multitask and then just listen or watch from a device.
And then you also have to recognize na not everyone has the luxury of time for it,
Exactly.
no?
Sakto
So,
sakto.
if we can learn about a certain topic, given the limited time that we have, why not?
Mhm.
So, kita, we're all for learning magyapon. So, whether that involves a book or a documentary, go for it, no? Let's not also parang overly romanticize reading pa to the point na di na ta in touch sa reality.
Yes, yes.
O ang mga, di ba, trabahante, wag na sila yung mga oras.
So,
Hindi, ang kulang
yeah.
ng palabang na sa laundry mat.
So basically, the formats, what we're trying to say here is that they also have their limitations. Like the documentary has their limitations.
So mo ni ang isa sang challenges about reading
Yes.
kay ang time.
Yes.
So how do I sell? How do I sell reading versus documentaries? Okay, like someone who's in sales, like okay, sell it. Ana, radyo dili ka to mag versus, but how do you sell? Ang right now nga sa points akong live, but I think it started mga 2023. It's really the anthem is do the difficult. Do the difficult. Muli na ako ang pilia ang lisod. Kay diha ang growth. Diha kang magkapakapa, diha ang failure, diha ang growth. So, kana palandaan mag-early mata, mag-try o jogging, or mag-try o read o a few books. I mean, a few pages per day, mga difficult things pa. So, kung documentary, again, sayo na kay siya. May mas na entertaining, visual, may music, and then kana, ni mo siya multitask
It
na.
heightens your emotions sometimes. Hey,
Ah.
you get so
Correct.
engaged with the
The
plot.
tension.
Yeah.
Entertaining siya.
Ah.
Entertainment ang documentary with learning.
Aha.
Pero ang reading is really discipline. And since ang goal is to be a writer and also a producer of books, I cannot do that if I'm not gonna be more disciplined.
Correct.
So which one will bring me to my goal? So sa Atomic Habits mo yun, dili magido ko no goal-oriented but systems-oriented ta. Unsa ang mga little things that we do every day that will build a system nga mo achieve sa ato mo sustain sa goal and then goal ko dili isa lang ka goal. So asa man ko mo pili ko sa documentary nga ma-entertain ko gahayang ra ko diya ka og chips or mo engage jud ko sa reading bakalag okay na magitan sa digito ganahag read. Actually para nako even for someone who loves books. Trabaho gid siya. Anak, I really have to make the choice to sit down and read and engage. Karon akong di ba nag-read ko House of the Spirit sa pahumanay nako. I finished Think and Grow Rich ni Napoleon Hill. Finish na ko. Ni-pick up na sad ko karon ni-resume ko ni Wuthering Heights. Kay gusto na sad ko dito sa British. Oh, so kanang gabalik ko na ko siya kay lisod siya. So maybe mo enrich po siya sa ako ang CNF writing pohon. Nanay mga phrases dito nga ma-pick na ko dito nga medyo if I combine it with the other texts that I'm exposed to, I could find the voice nga ako. The tone, the voice, the tonality nga email lang gina. So it's because I'm coming from a place man good na I wanna be a writer and a good one. So I have to read. So maybe it depends on other people po kung sa ilang goal. Pero para na ko yun by whatever it is, mag-writer ba ka, mag-unsa ka very good at your job, anything that fosters discipline and leads you to the more difficult but more gratifying path, I'm all for it.
if your goal also is to improve your language facility, reading is a good, it's a good exercise. But
The quote, guys, I don't know if you will agree nga, not all readers are leaders.
yes, yes.
But if leaders daw po, no, rare kayo nga dili leader.
Mhm.
Kaya ang leader, you have to communicate. You have to be verbally keen. You have to be linguistically competent. You have to be able to know your market and choose the language that will suit that market. And you also have to be face-to-face dealing with decision makers and organizations. How can you lead if you don't read? Or at least don't have that habit? Sige, so the next part is reading as a, so medyo may magusog sa voice kasi there's some commotion at the back.
I hope that
I think it's just gonna be a bit kanako naman. A few seconds are there taking a picture.
so
sige,
anyway,
it's the next.
yeah, so our topic would then transition to reading as a lifestyle.
So what does it mean to have reading as a lifestyle as opposed to just a hobby or a thing that entertains you or what? Maybe lisod ko adopt ang reading as a lifestyle because reading is a solitary task. And the question is everyone comfortable with solitude?
Yeah, so reader, you need to have photos. We also
You have to be
we also
comfortable reading
discussed about what kind of environment are you living in. And I really want to focus on reading this particular chapter, and then may mga tao sa panuktok, ana. So, how do you deal with that as well?
When you are in a household nga, daghan po kayong tao sa in a house, and nagaka-disturb ka from time to time, at least ideal kay ka moingon nga reading as a lifestyle, but the truth is, pwede ka ma-disturb at any time, and your train of thought ma-interrupt in reading. So, but then again, pwede man po kang mag-read sa cafe. No? But then, lisod man good kay, di ba ka remember? Kanang makita, tao niya, moingon ka, mag-read lang ta ha? Lisod kay, dili ka ka-accomplish, guys.
Chikara.
Kay mag-chika man yun. No? So that's why I always say, reading is a solitary activity. Like, you have to choose to be alone in that moment to parang be happy with wasting your time. Because you're not really wasting your time per se. You're learning something, you're finishing a book. It's a task. It's a real task.
So kailangan din siya og ideal na space
Set up.
or corner ba para maka-focus.
And you have to choose it. You have to choose within that 24 hours that you have. How many hours or minutes are you gonna devote to your book?
Yes. So reading basically comes with commitment.
And the formation of habits that you really wanna uphold. Okay, yun, na-habit ni mo karon nga magsigira kag tulog or magsigira kag
Netflix.
lahi o Netflix yung activities. So, siyempre, sa pagkaugmaan na, hindi po na imong bubuhaton. Sige na kagting na ko yung buhat. Pero dili yun ni mo sa buhat. Pero what if sugdan ni mo siya, di ba? Incremental changes ang nasa Atomic Habits. So, that's my non-literary read right now. Just improving 1% per day after 100 days, that's 100%. Pero we discount ng good the little changes because we don't see the improvements or the changes nga big right in that moment. So what's the point? Pero if we just gonna be patient and just change the habits and then do it just consistently, kana mo yung consistency. I mean the consistent habit. Consistency mo so
How do you approach your reading commitment? Because for me, I do this by ngayon ko nga, okay, let me just read one chapter karon.
and then one chapter yun.
Then ngayon ko nga one chapter, I still have time. I can still read another chapter. But there are also readers nga, they just read dahil mo stop na sila sa asa nila taman or asa nila gusto or asa nila kaya.
Yan parang kitang bati ko naging katulugon nga wala ko yung mga forbes akong gibasa. So stop na lang kay pointless man nga magpadail ka mo.
Okay.
Or niabot na kasi mong limit nga okay mora ni ako makaya for the day. Pero ako dili kay napog ko ga practice na pupuan ako an bitaw nga dili kay mag-pressure sa self. Kaya di ba dahil magugtaog ka na gina-experience on a day-to-day. So let's say na kay na-experience sa life nga upheaval. Ba magina simple routine kay kinahanglan man nimong i-deal. So lagi ko yung mga weeks nga magsik wonder hala wala na lagi ko nagbasa kaya to deal with something monumental in my life at that moment. So mo practice ko og self-compassion ba. Because how can I be more compassionate with other people? Mag-start ko sa akong self. Discipline ko, kung falter ko, compassionate ko sa akong self. So Amy, nakagiagian karon. Ayaw sa pagkaron ni balik naman ko. Nakabalik-balik na ako. That's how I know na okay ko na
Part
process.
on yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Kaya nga no, ang mailang mo sagod na ako ang self-give sa una. Easy na sagay ko sa akong self. Na if dili ka kabasa, dili na kita na ako nabalikan for years. You know, for several years katong murag akong activity was more on traveling, Netflix. Wala jud ko'y basa-basa. Nagid na years of murag reading drought. I have to admit that.
Yeah.
Reading drought na lang sila sa akong shelf. Sige kong palit. Wala jud ko'y read. Unya karon kay aside pa gid dayon sir, so kay tungod kay habit na ko ang reading mga days. Ni-translate ko din siya sa habit na ko for other things. Meaning, naka-form kay, di ba, consistent na gitna across all. If committed ka sa isa ka butang, committed ko ka with other things. Di ba, naka-mention ko nga, right ko sa second CNF. So, happy kay ko kay na ko'y mga mornings na makarite ko sa iya ka, ng mga paragraphs na kana, bitang katuloy yung gingo na happy ko. Happy ko sa kunasulat. So, feeling na ako, if wala ko ni habit sa reading, maglisod ko sa habit sa writing. Murag feeling, anak gina sa nip. Was it mo, Mary Oliver nga nag-ingat na gina siya pwede nga nili maglupan.
Yes. I've mentioned just a few moments ago na akong approach is chapter. Then stop na rin ko kung kapuyan. Pero ako yung gina-finish ang chapter nga naman. I also have a problem with, I don't know if it's
Recalling.
padulong na ba? Oh, katiguan.
Dili ko na info overload kay sige biya kag study.
Dili ka na bitong malinta na kung mo stop ito ko in the middle. Akong tendency kay mo balik ko o basa ato. So
Dapat
ako
kay mo balikon or a few pages lang.
could be in the middle of the chapter, yun na. Pero kung ma-remember, ako magong technique nga nung kailangan ko mo nag-chapter kay kung makalimot ko unsa ka dito nga chapter, basaw na ko ang last paragraph. Mako din ni ito. Ma-recall na, mas ingon ana ang effects sa to,
Think relate ko ano.
Technique po na.
Medyo limitanan naman.
Kung sa kadagan nimo ginabasa.
Siguro sad. Nag-mix ba yung akong binabasa no? Literary.
Okay, imagine if I'm doing academic work sa karon. Ako makaingon ko mga anong mas kuan akong habit, skyrocket ako reading habit. Walay ga compete ng other reading materials. Pareha sa iya guys. PhD siya guys. So karelate ko na katong masters ko. Dito ra gyud ng mga kanang mga topics gid ako nakabasa kay ito contribute to my study. So wala na pud ko energy to enjoy other texts kay or poetry kay kani man akong goal. Kani ra gyud.
Then moabot ko sa point nga
Maayo kayo ka-produce gihapon ka og read gihapon ka.
gaabot ko sa point nga kana mag-reading comatose na ko. Ano bitong
Sorry,
wala na gud di na mo lihok gid akong utok kay mo na bitog na info overload ko din na kani nagunahon na lugar ko nga I've been reading so much whatever academic chuk mo balhin sa kong literary kay basin maka-relax ko dili
Then how's the shift? The shift is more terrifying.
kay karon pa din ako na-realize mga my God, if academic writing would require me all the logic and whatever, kani grabing analysis. Kana bitong ay, hindi nga siya pwede. Undangon sa ginabasa. Makuan ko, mawingig ko.
Uy, sa singit sa kugamay, di ba, nag-recommend ko sa inyo audio, audiobooks ba? Kanang para bitaw ma-engage gyapon ko sa literary or sa literature. Pero hagok na ako kutok something else. Like whether writing pa na. So shift ko to audiobooks. Like katulad ako i-share about poetry.
Yan.
Kato,
Shift ko.
ever read. Okay, bahala na. So, kurang either pang patulog na ko siya or kapaminahon lang na ko siya ka na mahitabo mag siya ang tingin mo. Pwede ka mag-chores while listening.
Ako kay, ako ito gitry. Na-realize ako din ni siya
How
effective
poetry?
sa ako.
Ang audiobooks.
Kaya mo, what did I miss? Balik ko sa ito.
What do you mean the explanation?
Oh.
Akong technique, I really have to have the poem. Magbasa siya. Pangita din ako na sa Google ang poetry. Dahil pag mag-discuss na siya per line sa images, active gyapon siya.
Na-appreciate ako itong few niya nga poems. Nindot kayo.
Wait, kitsa ni?
katong how poetry moves na
how-
share
Sa mga playlist ni sa
ever rant
Never ran.
bitaw nga sa script. So to conclude, reading really requires a certain solitude. I mean, dili pa conclusion na, ba't ka nakatopic? Reading really requires a certain being comfortable with aloneness. And kaya kung ganahan sa kikagbibo per me, lisod jud kayo to sit still and be more actively engaged with the book that you're reading. But again, habit ra po siya. Keeping still, staying still, being comfortable with your thoughts. Mo ano gid po, figure out ay mo figure gid mo ng mental stability or mental health. Some people really can't be alone with their thoughts. Daghan ng kawas ng mga not so good thoughts. So
Yeah.
I think it will also
About,
uncover
do you agree that reading can also build your mental fortitude?
very much.
Reading is really a challenge. Reading is not just like, di ba, it's a receptive skill. You absorb whatever you encounter. And then, of course, you have to understand that what the authors are trying to write about is also a reflection of our reality. And when you're reading Manggod, you go back to nahitabo ba ni sa po? Asa man siya kung mga aspeto na hitabo, mga ingunana ba? You're able to discipline yourself to sit down and really focus on, okay,
Yeah.
I've known a lot of people, mayon sila nga, I want to read, pero tigit sila makalingkod, o mayon sila boring na kayo. Sometimes you really have to force or discipline yourself to really sit down. Kay basin dili ka ganan sa libro but you're not comfortable with the habit of reading because you haven't built your habit yet.
Habit yun.
dapat na-establish nga. Pwede ka nang imong plaster paglikod.
Yes.
So, kinanglan yung comfortable ko rin po ang ako, katulad nga, I think naka-mention ko last time, the reading lamp. The reading lamp would help me kay now sa ka ng taas bitaw ang ceiling, kay ceiling din mo illumination kay dili kay siya once a day. Dapat yung mga books nga medyo nipis ra ang mga lettering. Pero pag nakay lamp nga mo support, mas na illuminate dark ang murag dili kayo hayag ang surrounding pero dito sa book na illuminate. So dito imo na po siya something to do with the mental nga na-focus ka dito kay dito ang suga.
Atong world karon kay fast pace mo tanan galihok.
And
Ala mo wala ko ginabuhat kay feeling ko drako basta natin na ang mentality ba.
that's
Pero-
why you have to be aware.
Kung mag-read ka, dapat imuhod yung thinking kay akong brain ang galihok. I mean, not with physically moving around like what others are doing, but
Kaya ka, di ba? Kaya ka itong maka-attend kag lectures or conferences na katuingan na kagaling ko dra ka. Or active man ka imong brain in absorbing
Yes,
yes. Ikapoy ka at the end of the day.
yes. Like,
Because
also
it's
ka
still-
remember ka?
Yeah, it's
Itong
still-
conference na ito, palamurag na-drain lagi ko.
Because active ba kay ka ato, fielding the questions, asking questions, analyzing the paper. So kato ka na, relate na ko kamay ba sa katubit ang sustenance ng thing. Di ba ang background na ako, when I graduated manggod sa college, ako ang yung degree is business. Pero first love na may ako ang literature kung ang books. Pero pag masters na ako, di ba na yung mga read, imagine ka God, somebody from ang background kay finance o business. Tapos naka-encounter dayon anang mga lit script. Ito sa struggle when I was still very new sa MA nga. Lit script, minimalism, maximalism.
Minimalism.
Pato siya, di ko pa, although ganahan ka grade, pero alien kaya mga topics. So yun sa nakukunan yung mga moments of sa kong ginabasa. I feel so stupid yun. Now, sa MA nga levels, lahat na magod na ka ng mga gasulat na kay silang pantuang hidalbo, ang anak, katong mga sa UP na gitwa. Then, syempre, ang mga language mo nila kay ka ng mga high na kaayo. So, I really feel so dumb reading it for the first time. Pero, kailangan sa kong mind na, mo lagi na, know your why. Gusto man yun ko. Aside sa sulat ko, lagi ko'y background sa literature. And then, maka-teach ko sa iya. Kaya murag-murag gito murag fast track sa ang maka-learn ko more is to teach it. Like, I will be forced to study it. Pero naging mga moment lang. Akong technique adto, balik-balik ka sa bakalang buhok nagiging akong feeling. Balik-balik. How good nga ni arrive yung sa point nga when I read it again na ano. Kanang kato mga readers nga mo pick up the book. So why am I sharing this? You're not alone. Kung makaingon mo nga, I feel so dumb, nga, I feel so pretentious reading a book.
Yeah.
Kayo, don't be too self-critical.
Especially when you're still kind of starting, namagin kay feeling ngayon na
Bakit
kanang
magulbul na technique ang ina. It's not like murag underestimate na lang ni mo self.
Yeah.
Balik ka og read. Pero it's a technique man.
No,
Bakit pa siya
no.
technique?
Yeah, but coming from someone sa kuha ba nga reader na kaayo, o nya na ani mga publications biya at nga time. So mura bitaw, hindi ko kadawat ba nga, naan pa di, nilis di kayang literature. Kaya na ko, natural na kayo sa ako. So maybe ni mga tao po nga, kung kani nga mga topics, nila maayo na kay sila, and then encounter sila, kung nga ma-challenge sila, ayaw lang undang. Kanang,
Yes.
ayaw lang undang. Balik-balik ako si bahala, balik-balik.
That's what books are for. You not only discover whatever there is in a book, it's also a self-discover.
Now, mura siya contrast ba ka, di ba? Ana man siya, find a book that you like. So, mura, sabi ko, ang tips ninyo is find a book that you like. Daw karon, you sustain reading something that challenges you. Well, nara na sa inyong agad.
Yes.
If entertainment inyong gusto and just feel it, fine. You start with that. You start with what you love.
But I'd like also to emphasize siguro ng sorry to cut you off. Katong sigurong point ni Alch is when you're still starting, you're still oiling the machine ba?
Getting your footing.
Pagana lang sa pagana.
Correct.
But when you grow in reading, kato na dagyan.
You want the growth bitaw. You're not just stopping with the entertaining novels, with the kilig-kilig. You wanna examine again mga bigger issues and maybe challenge your own viewpoints even.
I like that.
That's
Challenging your viewpoint.
That's when you're gonna expose yourself to books that really challenge you on all levels.
Or remember na ko itong giingon ni Dr. Paulma sa ato ang creative writing nga class before. Ang sample nga literary piece ato nga particular theory kay katong Summer Solstice.
That's
Hindi-
classic.
Ni Nick Joaquin nga amot lang, siguro pataot lang siguro po ato nga time po. Anak ko vocally na ko kay ma'am nga, ma'am, I did not understand what I read. I do not understand anything. Anak ko. Ana din siya nga, in fairness kay ma'am. Ana siya nga,
Undergraduate, MA.
Ana siya nga, you don't have to understand it the first time.
That's nice. Actually, that's quite kay basic na rin. Classic siya.
Classic.
Pero ano siya ka na, ang tema niya ba?
Oo.
Kasi siya.
Joaquin ba yan? So medyo fine artist yun ni.
Artistry. There's really artistry in that text.
Mo lagi to atong atong na share atong ni Agi gihapon.
Wait, why is there like that?
What's going on? Let's just edit that out. I hope I could edit that out. Pero if ever na magaling na siya, candid, let it be.
Blooper.
Looper. Kay murag naka-on ang akong mga emoji chuk-chuk. So anyway, what I was saying is, katong ganahan kay ko atong gingon niya nga, you don't have to understand it
Yeah.
the first time. But the moment you understand it, it's nice. But if you reread it and then you rediscover something na po,
There's the reward. There's
exactly.
That's-
Rewarding siya.
O siguro po, ang kanang murag na makapasustain sa reading is there is a reward at the end.
I think people have to understand that. No, when I reward ang reading,
Lagi na siya trabaho. Just like any kind of work, at the end, that's your reward.
Pero ay lang po daw give up no nga sa first reading ni mo din na ka ganahan dili na po dayon ka forever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this over and over kay we're reading at
the time when I read this when I was still immature, I still didn't have the wisdom. Pagbasa na din ko, now it makes sense.
Siguro ma-relate na ako siya sa ako ang ano ba kanang interest in hiking, mountain climbing. Kanapitang kapag ako'y ramang ka, gahagwa-hagwa lang kasi mong lawas. Pero kanang lahi dito ang pride pag naabot na nimo ang tuktok nga wala man ka na-expect nga kaya sa imong lawas kay all these years sabi man nimo nga weakling ka, hinay ka o kanang hinay ka
pwede na yung mga
strength
evaluations in yourself are not really physically active and
Oo.
now you're breaking barriers.
ana siya.
And di ba
So,
na-mention sa ganito sa mga post na when you go to the top, kani siya nga kinds of views or kani siya nga vistas. Dili mo ni siya makita through any other na angle or height. But you have to be at that height to be able to see that kind of, for example, certain intimacy between you and the vista that you're beholding. And then you will be, may nanap ito, you will feel closer to the creator.
Bitaw.
Baka yun, ka si God ra yun ang makahimo.
Majestic kaayo ang everything.
Diba? Kanang poems are made by fools like you and me, but only God can make a tree.
Mm.
So, books are just feeble attempts by human beings to create something and to make sense of something. But nature, we really cannot approximate that. We really cannot create that.
Dili
It's really
replicate.
There's a, parang, you may want to write about that.
Mm.
Pohon, na there's the soul finds its home in that vision, in that vista, na di mo na makita diri sa lowlands.
Just like reading, di ba? Murag,
It takes you to certain heights.
yes.
Yes, there's a peak.
And when you're there, ano pa rin mo ma-realize na, oh, hindi masagot sa author. Oh, na-capture na ko ang mga nuances niya from this view.
Yeah, Monasaga, I thought I knew already a lot about this subject, but then this kind of conflict or drama or theme is presented in this way. Oh, there's another way of looking at it, Lian.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, this is what I always used to tell my students sa literature before.
Mm.
Na reading Manggot opens our eyes to so many things na beyond what we can readily comprehend. And if at the end of that we become more arrogant, then what's the point? If we become less human because of our intellect, because of our reading, what's the point? It's better you stop reading.
Oo, kita kong ginalingan sa bitaw nga kanang ay realization every time ba nga maka-conquer of mountain kay it humbles me ba nga
I'm just a speck.
gamay na makaayo
Just a speck.
yung nakaabot ko diri anak ko.
Maybe
God's grace.
maybe kami karon ga right, and then you're climbing mountains. By the time you're writing, we're the ones climbing mountains.
Yes.
Worthy
I
pursuits.
climbed the mountain and then rolled down.
Jiggle down.
Jiggled. I like, masama kay
Sorry.
Mura mag-jelly.
Yeah, jiggle down lang.
Naging blob pa nga rin.
Yeah, blob lang yun. A blob of something. So muna siya. If by reading, we become more compassionate. If by reading, we become... Because you know what? Reading opens our eyes to different cultures. If judgmental, Tani, we are reminded how by the wounds that we carry, we are all the same. And by the struggles that we find ourselves in, we can be different, but at the end, we are all united. We're the same. And if reading can help us become kinder, then it's really a worthy effort for a worthy.
It brings me back to
Understanding.
itong conference, atong
Right. Ethical.
ethical comment ko siya.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Xavier
ethical criticism.
Giselle.
Ethical criticism ang ito siya, but there's a point that was emphasized na of course literature mirrors society and it mirrors characters, the human tendencies, our decision making. And dito ta maka-learn to be compassionate and to be kind because whatever we choose, we also see in literature what happens, what the consequences are. So, balik sa itong eco-criticism, ito itong like how do we deal with nature, for example, related ka, no? Kaya itong our decision towards
You're
nature.
finding that to be eco-critical.
Ina na ba? Kaya itong
What we really liked about the conference was kanang you define man ang ethical. Na ethical doesn't have to be moral.
yes.
That the ethical takes into account the author himself or herself, the place, the culture, the time. So like if something happens or something is being done, we examine it not on whether it's right or wrong according to morality, but whether
Yes.
it's called for in that moment because of the specific struggles that a group of people has or the person has or the author has experienced. So ana ang ethical viewpoint.
Yeah.
And then the ethical will now, because it considers the setting, the history, the
Yes. Basically the backdrop.
specificity. So, hindi ko siya mag-touch on post-colonialism, feminism.
It gives attention now to the backdrop. Dili lang, okay, the characters are the stars, but what about, where's the character coming from?
That conference should have had more audiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, para ano. And especially because there were techniques taught for the classroom. So, to conclude, okay, how do you, sige, one by one lang, mag-share ka, no? What are your tips in keeping the reading culture alive? And how do you think we can develop early reading habits, but the goal is always lifelong readership. What's your tip? Oh, one word for that, and then maybe expound a bit.
Mm. Okay, if we're talking about culture, there is culture if there is the people doing a thing.
Action.
There should be an
Take action.
action. But wala may reading culture. Kung di po kaga-read, culture lang. Whatever that is, it's not reading.
Okay, what about you? What's your one word?
One word is shared. Because when we say culture, Magod, it's passing down, right? Sociologically speaking, it's passing down a tradition.
Practices,
It's, yes, passing down
Habits.
practices.
ways of thinking.
So recently, akong ginabuhat is, if I love particular books, I share it with others.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
see
what,
that.
that's the reason why.
Especially sa
Nag-shopping siya sa XU Press. Sabi kay
Kada
Khalid,
bitam, nasa table ba din? Nagtanong-tanong dito, sorry, ako lang siyang tanong.
so generous.
Yun.
Gifts niya, yung gift niya sa mga people. If you're one of those yung makadawat, you're a lucky person.
pero sa ano po 'di ba kanang within the family kay we try to influence we don't have our own kids man so
Have kids in the family.
so we influence our nieces our
Yes,
nephews to
yes.
start reading we buy them books kung afford ra so
Mm.
ano, generational like I mean sharing ba
Yes. You share kay, kung naka-establish na ka, ano siya potential, oh. Kay magbasa-basa man siya.
Mm.
You actually enrich that experience for them, provide them books that you love or you think they will
That's
love.
true. That's true.
especially siguro ba nga katong mga
Manakod.
oh kanang mga gagmay pa tao kanang wala tay inani nga support system gagmay pa ta like at least man akong background ba nga wala pa naka-influence yun sa ako
Pa. Diyan sa manimong sugod.
kuan kanang
Sa school?
sa school or na-influence by the classmates and kato lagi kasagsagan sa pagkasikat sa Harry Potter so naging murag word of mouth ko uy na-chada ni na nakuy book pahulamon ta ka so man
So that brings me to my word,
Mhm.
which is community.
Mm.
Community. Kana, we really cannot isolate the reader na siya lang. So even if we say, okay, take action, where the community is not supporting it, the government, there are no government efforts to give budgets for the libraries and all that. And if no one is doing the advocacy, then the young people will really go up thinking, books are just a nuisance. Books are an unnecessary thing. Yeah, digital naman tanan karon na may e-books, na may audiobooks, na may Netflix, na naman documentaries. So community. And nagsumpay na mo siya kay pang-cults, wala man di ay sa family niya encourage. But because of the community, imagine, hindi siguro sila actively aware at ako pa lang nga community, nga talk about books and then of course J.K. Rowling, you know, ano na gina siya pillar na gina. And then there's someone nga na naka-develop sa iyang love for books. And right now, he is passing on that. The love for it. Hindi lang sa family, but sa friends po. They're into gifting books. And so, very huge po.
You know what? I've come across this kind of post sa Facebook. I don't know kung na-share ba to na po or basin niyo kung nakita. There's this kind of story ba in relation to community. I think it's the setting is in US. Nado ko na-share ka nang nahimo accidentally na silent reading group. Ngagabasa siya sa cafe. Tapos nabasa-basa dyan, na siyang libro. Tapos na daw ko na old guy, nawata siya, what are you reading? Ano siya nga, this is a book of shit. Nagchika daw sila kadyot. Tapos the next day na nagbalik siya sa cafe na naang katong old person, nagdala po siya ng old book. Nagdala po siya own book niya.
Katong same book or another book?
Another book na po. So nag-silent reading daw sila duha. Hantod, nanapod ako another na po na nabasa lagi sila. So nagdala na po sila hantod ni abot gidaw ko na siya pila ka months nga nidako ang ilang kuan nga mo. Adto na gidaw
Which
sila.
countries is?
I think in the US kung siguro. Dayon, they only talk when they take a break, mag-coffee break sila, magkuha sila, refill sila silang coffee.
Top 10.
Oy, what are you reading? We're ginanad ako sa ako nabasan ko. Oh, it's so nice if you have a community like that really supports that kind of
Kailangan.
practice.
I think also in the Netherlands na ay mura ginana ka culture ba? Pwede ka
The
mag-share.
exchange of books during Christmas.
And also kanang kuan, kanang they just go to the cafe and read.
Right.
Talaga yun.
Right, to or Sweden ba to katong work? Kato bitaw na practice of gifting each other books during Christmas. Na books yun.
Nice.
Hopefully, no, our long-term goal is to create a community good of readers na we can share lang or maybe we can
Yes. And invite people in our
so
podcast.
share networks
Si
and
Carl.
resources. Carl, hey Carl, invite
Hi,
me.
Carl.
Amin ako na siya ka.
So Carl, nga ni Ragyo, chika-chika Ragyo.
Oo.
And maybe we could consider next time we guest someone.
Yeah,
Happy guest,
yeah.
to share insights. So we are working on that. We're looking for people who can join us, join in the conversation.
Tapos eventually, no, kasi pwede na mga live audience na gid siya.
Why not?
Bring mangarap.
Conference na gid.
So okay, this has been Amy.
AJ.
And Arvin.
This has been Lit Chat Lounge.
Yes. Bye.
Music in the background.